the health and welfare of modern-day children. This topic is about today's children, which will be tomorrow's adults and world leaders. We see that today there are many flaws with today's children, and I'm going to exploit what those flaws are, and why they're flaws, and basically outline the problems. So the first problem is, of course, preteen and teenager pregnancy. That is way too early to be having children, especially when you're most likely going to be bringing children into a world in which you can't take care of them, you can't protect them from, because you're just a child yourself. And so that's a big problem. And it's not decreasing, it's actually increasing. More and more people are getting pregnant over and over and over again and giving birth to children in which they can't take care of. And, you know, this comes in an age where we have more and more pregnancy prevention for teenagers, and more pregnancy prevention talks for teenagers, and yet it seems that there's more and more pregnant teenagers, and that's a big problem. The second issue is the code of chivalry seems to be inexistent in today's children. Now what that means is that's respect, honor, honesty, integrity, patience, and selflessness. I don't know about any of you, but it's very hard for me to find any of those qualities in today's children and in today's people, which is why it's not in today's children. Respect, I just want to say this: you don't have to like somebody or like what they say or agree with them in order to be respectful to them. Honor, people don't care about self-respect, people don't care about self-honesty, because as long as they get everything that they want, self-respect and self-honesty doesn't matter to them. And then honesty, in which we don't lie to others. Honesty, an honest person in general, is so hard to find nowadays. And that's just a very sad thing to say. And then, of course, integrity is pretty much the same as honor in a way. I mean, what's happened to people's self-respect? What's happened to people's backbones? What's happened to people's integrity? And then there's patience. What is the rush? Things like obesity, things like most of the diseases that we have today, we're susceptible of those because of stress. And also car accidents. All three of those things are mostly due to people who are impatient and trying to rush everywhere. And then finally, selflessness. That really goes without saying, because there's so many selfish people in this world. Even the people who do good deeds or do good things are mostly doing it for their own benefit. And that's just not right. Next is technology. Now, technology is not a bad thing. Technology is a good thing. However, what everybody calls a cell phone nowadays is not a cell phone. It's not even a phone. I mean, it's, you know, a computer's not a phone, a camera's not a phone, a keypad's not a phone. None of that is a phone. A phone is a phone. It's a hunk of plastic with buttons, with electronic circuits that allows you to call another phone from a person in a distance. It's not meant to go onto the internet. It's not meant to take pictures. That is why the camera was made separate. That's why the computer was made separate. And you know what? A lot of people say to me, well, it's just technological advances. We're going to be putting more things on one specific object, and that will lessen how the cost of things, and that will lessen the space that everything takes up. And on that, I agree. But, you know, the Apple industry is going to be remembered for three major things. Number one, very, very smart people came out with a lot of technological advances. Number two, very rich industry. Number three, the industry that gave the world cancer. And I say this because they're putting everything on the same item. You have this cell phone that has internet, and it has pictures, and it has texting, and all of that junk all in the same thing, which means that people are going to have these things stuck to their ears more, in their hands more, and taking more pictures and just using these electronical devices much, much more. And you know what the problem with that is? Electronics radiate with radiation. Their radiation comes from electronics. So, the more gadgets you put on a specific electronic, the more radiation you'll get from using it, because the more you'll use something with more applications and such. So, that's a big problem. Another big problem with technology is crackberries and those who are, you know, phones and things like them. Everyone has to have one of these cell phones, apparently. I've never bought one. I don't intend to. And they're on them all the time. They use them for everything. In fact, I've heard of teachers which, upon forgetting their BlackBerry or losing their BlackBerry, will dismiss the class because they cannot teach the class without the BlackBerry. I hear people all the time say, I can't survive without my BlackBerry. Well, I'm here to say, yes, you can. You always have been able to. The BlackBerry was only invented a few years ago. In fact, cell phones aren't that old either. You could survive before them, you can survive after them. What I want to see sometime is if just for a few days, maybe a week, electronics just go out, and satellites don't, send frequencies to the phones and so on, and phones don't work, and internet doesn't work, and all of that doesn't work. I want to see that happen, because I want to see people scramble all over the place just because they haven't got their foolish technology. They're putting faith, they're putting their whole power into their technology, which is always dangerous. Whenever you put your full power into anything, it's very dangerous, because in a split second, it could be gone. Another big problem with today's children and today's people is that if a person doesn't like their life and they decide to take their own life, which I believe to be a very sad thing, it seems as if more and more these same people are taking lives with them. And the problem with that is that turns something from a sad thing into something that makes me mad. And it makes me mad because if you forfeit this game, if you want to end your experience, that's your problem. That's your choice. Do whatever you want. But you don't have the right to end someone else's game and someone else's experience. You don't have the right to end anything of anyone else's. Everyone's life is their own. Not everyone deserves to live, but no one deserves to die. And therefore, no one has any right for any reason to kill anybody. And it just keeps increasing and increasing and increasing, which is a big problem, because next thing you know, every single person who gets suicidal will go out and kill 10 people along the way, and then kill themselves. And then I heard this one guy who, before killing himself, he killed 10 cows. 10 cows! These cows are probably just in the meadow, eating their grass, ready to be milked, and then they're slaughtered by a maniac. Just big problems. And the final and probably the biggest problem with today's children and today's society is that within a few hours,